When the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh. When care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but do not ever quit.
Bismillah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm your host Khalil Amonette. Joining us is Sheikh Ibrahim Zidan. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you very much. And also our in-studio audience, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you guys for joining us. And we have a new guest here, Malik Evangelitos. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the show.
Alaikum salam. Thanks for having me back.
Let's talk about some social aspects of fasting during Ramadan, which is the breaking of the fast. Families usually unite around the dinner table and eat and drink and all that kind of stuff. After Ramadan, do you find yourself keeping consistent with this, or does it sort of the family thing?
Oh yes, certainly. I mean, that's one good characteristic my family has always had. We always eat together, and my family's not Muslim. My mother, my father, my grandma. But actually, as my first Ramadan proceeded, towards the end of the month, they began to accommodate me more and make dinner at the right time. So it was nice. It was very nice.
I know. So you had your non-Muslim family, and it was sort of like da'wah to them. All eat together, break their fast, maybe share some dates with them or something.
Well,
like
they
that.
weren't breaking their fast, but they would just delay their dinner time. And my grandmother, my Greek grandmother, at the beginning of the month, when she was insisting, she said, just eat, forget about it. She said, those guys aren't really fasting, they're eating in private. My grandma, because she lived in Egypt for a long time, she said, no, I know they're not. And at the end of the month, then she would respect it more, and now they're ready to accommodate my prayer schedule, my eating schedule. Yeah, it was very nice.
What about you, Sheikh Ibrahim?
Wallahi, the social aspect of Ramadan brings all kinds of goodness and khair actually. And one of which this closeness that people, because of the busy schedule that they have nowadays where everybody's materialistic life is too much taking people away. So this was a reminder that they need to still be close. And the Prophet ﷺ, even on the companions of the Allah, they complained that they eat but they don't get full. The Prophet ﷺ ordered them to eat together. So there is something good about eating together, right? And it even teaches the young children to have the ithar, to prefer others on your own self. This issue of selfishness, I take my food and I eat alone. The difference between animals and human beings, that we have certain things that we have to develop, and one of which is to have this compassion and to eat together and so on. Many lessons to be learned, good qualities, and people having good manners with one another and so on. And being very close, because there's so many things that breaks the ties of the families nowadays. And the family unit in Islam is such an important unit, right? This is where the society are made of. That's why you find verses in the Quran talks about marriage and divorce and children and wives and so on. Why? Because this is such an important goal in the life of Muslims. You would find the rights of the child is being protected by making sure that the child is raised in a husband and a wife environment, not anything else. Not loose environment, but environment in such a way. That's why verses in the Quran about marriage and so on. So the family unit in Islam is such an important one. So anything that will strengthen the family ties, it's definitely something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. And one of which Ramadan brings people together. And definitely we need to continue with that. Fasting Mondays and Thursdays, or once a month or 3 days a month, and the family, they can do that together. They eat the suhoor before Fajr and they break their fast. And other than Ramadan, eating together. It's one of the things that we need to bring back into the families, and asking about the affairs of one another and making sure that people are fulfilling the orders of Allah. Continuing with that is an important thing.
Excellent. If I could just add, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Last year I had just moved to San Francisco and Ramadan came, and I spent many of the Maghrib breaking the fast in the masjid. And just by eating with the people, you get this love and friendship and brotherhood that lasts throughout the whole year.
Right.
It's for just the idea of you're hungry, you're waiting to eat and drink, and you're sitting next to people and you're talking and you're enjoying, and you offer someone else food and they offer you food, and like the Sheikh said, it really cements like the bonds of the Muslims.
Yeah, I think everyone around the world, a few billion people, experience the same thing, the same hunger. They eat at the same time. I think this all is a great aspect to learn from, of unity. Some people, I would like to switch it up, talk about Eid a little bit. Of course, we've been very strict during Ramadan. Then the day of Eid comes right after, and everyone's very happy. And so they think it's just a time to let loose. a time for celebration. Sometimes some of the women are not dressed properly or other things like that. What is your opinion on that?
The night of the Eid is such a blessed night, and at the same time it's such a dangerous one if a person is not paying attention of what we're doing. Because we need to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times. And one of which the night of the Eid prayer. And that's why after the month of Ramadan is over, we've been praying the night prayer every night in Ramadan. And then the night of the Eid, people do not do anything. We need to continue this act of worship. Even if it's done in half an hour, doesn't matter. But do some act of worship, some prayers during the night. And in the Eid, it's a blessing that we are happy because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to celebrate. Our a'yad, or our holidays in Islam, is not just for no reasons or to satisfy our own desires. It's also because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to be happy on this day and to celebrate on this day. So even the celebrations, it's like an act of worship. You get rewards by celebrating on the day of Eid. You get rewards by making it easy for your family and your children, and you get them happy and excited. You get rewards for that because this is our holiday, this is our Eid. But of course in halal way. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the halal so spacious. Why would a person make it tight on oneself in the haram? But if some people made the haram so easy and so widespread, it doesn't mean that we become part of it. We need to be patient with the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not that the religion is difficult. It's that some people made the life of those who want to be righteous difficult. Right? So what we do then? We should still be patient with the orders of Allah. But I believe there's so many ways of having happiness and so on, celebrations within the family, going out in the proper way, and never disobey the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'd find all matters of goodness, but it's very important that we need to be happy. One important issue, some people, they come on the day of Eid, and they say we should not forget about the sufferings of the Muslims, and it's a good thing. And we should give and we should remember them. But it doesn't mean that we should feel bad that we're happy. No, we should not feel bad that you're celebrating the Eid. It's not about feeling or celebrating for fun and ultimate fun and unconditional fun and things like that and partying for no reason. It's fulfilling the act of worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered us to celebrate this day. So this is an act of worship. So never feel bad that you're happy on the day of
course.
Eid, right? But at the same time, we do it in the proper way, and we don't forget our Muslim brothers all over the world. Some people will be in the day of Eid and not having food to eat, or suffering, or widows and things of that nature. So that's why we need to also give, and to the Zakat al-Fitr is part of our acts of worship to make sure that communities are satisfied, that nobody is hungry on this day. They're all celebrating.
And if I could just add, Sheikh, as well.
Go ahead.
I feel like pure joy on Eid because I feel like I've completed my obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I completed the fast for 30 days, and I feel like a really happy and great joy. But when you said, Sheikh, some people might not have food on Eid, is an excellent point, because when we fast in Ramadan, I always remember when Maghrib time comes around, most likely, inshallah, I will be at home with my family in safety, with a nice meal waiting for me and a nice drink. Whereas many people around the world, they don't have that, so we should consider that as well.
So what about the poor person who's been consistently fasting, but then Eid comes and he doesn't really have anything to celebrate? I don't know how you can have any tips for him, but I mean...
No, it's actually one of the sad things that when Muslims slacked and they're not holding fast to the deen, Islam as a system is such a perfect system that it's enough to make such cases not present in Eid. You have Zakat al-Fitr where people would give food. Every person would give food so that nobody is hungry or nobody is in need on that day. You have Zakat al-Mal, the obligatory Zakat, in which it would be enough that you won't find a poor person under that system of Zakat. So also in Eid it's meant that the Prophet ﷺ said about this day that you give to the poor and you make them rich on this day. They're happy on this day. But if this is not happening in this overall way, at least for those who do not have, they need to seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be patient and seek rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This life basically is like Ramadan and Eid. It started and it ends. Some people celebrate and some people they lose. They lose because they didn't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the month of Ramadan. So this is also like Ibn al-Qayyim. He mentioned that in some lines of poetry. It's like this life is like this. وَصُمْ يَوْمَكَ الْأَدْنَى لَعَلَّكَ فِي غَدٍ تَفُوزُ بِعِيدِ الْفِطْرِ وَالنَّاسُ صُوَمُ, which means fast this day of yours, meaning on this life, before the day of judgment comes, when everybody will be fasting, right? And people will be celebrating Eid al-Fitr, meaning the believers, they would celebrate then the real celebrations as if they were fasting throughout their whole life. Fasting from what? Fasting from sins and fasting from being ungrateful and so on. So if a poor person still have the means to live and eat and drink and breathe and so on, by being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and being patient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful.
And you will feel happy having completed this great act of
And that's
worship.
the reason why we're happy, because we fulfilled the pillar of Islam successfully.
I think we have a question from the audience. He's been waiting for a while. Go ahead, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Jazakallah khair for your efforts. And I have a little question about the Sadaqah al-Fitr. And we all know that we have to pay the Sadaqah al-Fitr during the month of Ramadan. And I would like to know the link between paying Sadaqah al-Fitr in Ramadan and the fasting. And what if someone didn't pay the Sadaqah al-Fitr? Does that mean that his fasting is not completed or what? And thank you.
It's a good question, mashallah. Sadaqah al-Fitr, where the Prophet ﷺ made it obligatory on us. And this is something to be given as food, as the Prophet ﷺ gave it very clear statement about it, which even mentioned the volume or the weight of its sa', which is different from one thing to the other things of food that is to be saved, not something to be consumed. But the question is, we're concerned not about the fiqh matter to it, but the relationship between Sadaqatul Fitr, this obligatory charity, or the fitri as some call it, and the fasting of the month of Ramadan. The Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith that it's purification of one's fasting. Any act of worship, we have a deficiency as human beings. We don't fulfill and do not give this act of worship its rights. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most high, and He's the most wise subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we have this deficiency in ourselves. If we really have the reality of the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we would see that we are basically playing, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the most merciful, and He accepts these simple deeds that we do, right? And with all the deficiencies that we have, a person maybe did not fulfill the fasting in the proper way, the salah and so on. We purify ourselves, and that's the mercy of Allah, a way for us to purify ourselves, and it benefits others, right? So you would find yourself given from what you love so much, giving from the same thing that you deprived yourself from throughout the month of Ramadan, giving food. That's why it's meant to be food, not money. It's food. Why? Because it's the same sort of thing that you deprived yourself from. You give from it to the poor. So that purify our fasting to make sure that it's clean from all deficiencies, and it's charitable things, of course, and it makes ourselves, having the spiritual level in which we go over our needs and desires, and we become basically such human beings that can be in control of their own selves and fulfilling what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. If a person does not pay, this is an obligation. The Prophet ﷺ made it an obligation, and the Prophet ﷺ does not speak from his desire, he speaks from revelation. So he made it an obligation. That means a person has to give that before Salatul Eid. It has to reach the poor before the Eid prayer. Many people, they come on the Eid prayer and they have no idea about Sadaqatul Fitr, and they expect that when they come for the Salah, they put things in the boxes,
Right.
and that means they did Sadaqatul Fitr.
They just put money in the box. I've seen that before, yeah.
Prophet ﷺ said that it's after Salatul Eid, it's Sadaqah, it's a charity. But it's not the one for the Fitr. You missed it. What should they do? They should still give it. They should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, and they should still give it, but they missed its time. Its time, it has to reach the poor before the Salah. And this is the purpose of it, so that they are rich.
And they'll feel happiness, like
right.
The rich.
In the day of Eid, not after the prayer is over.
Anytime in the month before Eid.
Okay, we come back for the next segment. This is all the time we have. Thank you for staying with us. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. We're just discussing some of the virtues of fasting, which is giving up and abstaining from those things which are bad for the body, so we can train our bodies to quit these bad things. We're going to go to the audience to see if they have any questions.
Yes. Actually, I have a question regarding those people who cannot fast during this very blessed month. But I want you, Sheikh, to give them an advice, because they feel very sad while they see people fast. And what is obligatory for them, or is it obligatory for them to make fasting after finishing this month, or they can delay it till their excuse vanished?
MashaAllah. It's a good thing, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful. And for those who had the valid excuse and they broke their fast in the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses of the Quran about them. That's enough honor for them. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that they can make up these days if they're able to do that. Some they cannot when they have chronic diseases or reached very old age. But still Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned them in the Quran. And that's why they should not feel sad in the sense that this is the qadr, the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and He is the most wise. And He is the one that gave them this ease in which they would feed the poor instead for every day. They broke their fast. If they were able to make up the days, they would make up the days after Ramadan, and the reward is given in full. And that's the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But instead they should have the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in their hearts and do the good deeds that they're able to do and seeking help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there is no difference between them and others, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most merciful and give them the rewards in full. إِذَا مَرِضَ الْعَبْدُ أَوْ سَافَرْ كُتِبَ لَهُ مَا كَانَ يَعْمَلُ صَحِيحًا مُقِيمًا. That the Prophet ﷺ said, if a person falls sick or traveled, he would be given the rewards in full, the way that he would do it when he is healthy and staying in his home. That's why it's a call really for those who are healthy and not travelers. What are we doing when we have these, good state? Because that's how we will be given the rewards. If something happens, if a person is sick, he will be given the same rewards of what he used to be doing when he's healthy.
What about after fasting?
No.
What about finishing the excuse or the...
Right. If a person's excuse is finished, the condition is lifted, he was sick and he became cured by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this person has to make up these days that he broke in Ramadan. The same thing for maybe pregnant women or breastfeeding, menses. She has to make up these days, even if it's many days. It doesn't have to be one after the other. It can be done, separately. And if a person is not able to make up the days, then feeding a poor for every day. Feeding a poor for every day, but it's something that has to be done unless a person is not able to make up the days. Old age or chronic disease. In that case, a person would just give or feed a poor every day before the next Ramadan. But if the next Ramadan comes and the person didn't fulfill or didn't finish the days, then still the days to be fasted after the next Ramadan, and to be away from the differences of opinion. And again, the details of the fiqh matter can take a long time. But to be away from the differences of opinion, yes, you still have to make up the days after the next Ramadan, but feed for every day a poor person. So you would do both. Make up the day and to feed a poor for every day.
That way you stay on the safe side, so to speak. But Sheikh, there's so many beautiful hadith and beautiful aspects of Ramadan. It always surprises me that some people just approach Ramadan from purely cultural perspective. I recently came to learn that they have something called Ramadan tents. And the people, they bother themselves to fast all day, and then at night they go inside a tent and they smoke those water pipes. And I was shocked when I heard such a thing. Why would you bother yourself? So some people are approaching Ramadan with no religious intention at all. But inshallah, this Ramadan will be different for them.
Wallah, it's a very good point, and we should advise ourselves and others that Ramadan, again, it's not about celebrating the nights of Ramadan in such, as you said, and during the day sleeping all night, all day. What's the benefit of Ramadan?
No benefit.
And it's really, if a person is patient, just be patient throughout the month of Ramadan. The last 10 nights, do the best you can, as if you have no desire in the last 10 days of Ramadan. But you would see the effect, great effect, the night of Eid. You would feel such happiness that you never felt in your life before whatsoever. But with the condition, the more you give effort, the more your happiness will be in Eid. So for those who want to have a happy Eid, do the work now. You would feel a great joy in the day of Eid.
So if you didn't fast, you're not going to feel very happy on Eid.
Right.
I think that's sort of the difference between, not the Muslim world, but where, the culture is, Ramadan is just sort of a cultural thing, and the West, where people really have to maybe a little bit strive more to complete their goals. It's not like you can go out, there's a Ramadan tent, like you said, and you can go celebrate at night, It's sort of, you go to Taraweeh at the masjid, to experience Ramadan, instead of going towards the cultural way.
After 5-6 years, I'm just now beginning to appreciate it. Before I was Muslim people, I hear Muslims say, oh, Ramadan's coming, I'm so excited. Like, this guy's a fool. What's he excited about? It's not a holiday. But now after 5-6 years, you begin to develop yourself as a person, and you realize
the true happiness.
The true happiness in life, yeah.
Right.
I think Ayman has some question.
Sheikh, some people act very rudely and badly toward other people, and they like cuss at other people just because they're fasting, and they think that's an excuse. Does this take away from their fasting?
Definitely. And the rewards of a person's fasting is not just one block of rewards. It depends on how quality of the fasting that we have. If it's just food and drink and then we abuse everything else, the reward is that much.
Yeah.
Right? And the benefit of it might not be great benefit, but he still fulfilled the obligation. But if a person would gain the great rewards by abstaining, by being patient, by having the best manners, even if people are abusing them, and as we heard the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that it's something that is valid to happen in the month of Ramadan, that this will happen to you, that people will try to cause problem to you. What do you say? You say, Inni sa'im. And the day of your fasting is different than the day that you're not fasting in. So that definitely decreases the rewards, and as the means of some of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that if you don't leave false speech in the month of Ramadan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in no need of your fast. Right? And how many people they only gain from their fasting? Hunger and thirst. Right? And how many people gain from their night prayer? To be tired and standing. But the real gain is when a person's attitude change and manners change, and that we are fasting from all evil and all harm. And if somebody harms you, you say, I am fasting, meaning I'm away, I'm abstaining. Abstaining from what? From what is evil. And that's the meaning, of course, of
We're running out of time, so I'd like to go for the Sheikh to ask him, do you have any conclusionary remarks?
Well, towards the end of Ramadan, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the sincerity and to accept our deeds in Ramadan, and to make sure that we make decisions that we will still be Muslims, submitters to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after Ramadan, till the moment of death. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to meet the Prophet ﷺ in the best gathering in the Day of Judgment, and to enter the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the best companionship, and that is the companionship of the Prophet ﷺ.
And thank you. I'd like to thank our guest, Malik. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And of course, Sheikh Ibrahim Zidan. And I'd like to thank our in-studio audience. Thank you guys very much. What I hear a lot about Ramadan is it passes by very quickly. So take advantage of this month. Even though it seems like a long time, a whole month, it actually passes by very quickly, like life. So take advantage of it and make every minute count. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
When things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when things go wrong, as they sometimes will, when the road you're trudging seems all uphill, when the funds are low and the debts are high, and you want to smile but you have to sigh, when care is pressing you down a bit, rest if you must, but do not ever quit. Success is a failure turned inside out. Let's talk and clear